Chapter 2. Now for the first time, it was hard to concentrate on what the man in front of me was saying. I recognised some of the words. I'm not stupid, you know, even if we both acted like I was. Suspension, exclusion, another school. I got it. I'd been in this seat before. We'd had this conversation before, or at least something very similar to it. This time was different, of course. I couldn't get the image and sounds of last night's carnage out of my head. The chaos, the screams, the flashing lights, the looks on the boys' faces as they were being marched into the back of a copper's van in handcuffs.
"Evan, look at me,"
demanding the fat, balding man on the other side of the unnecessarily large desk.
"Are you hearing a word I'm saying?"
There was a brief moment of awkward silence while I considered my response. Well, maybe awkward for him, but not really for me. It was just a matter of whether I was willing to say what was really on my mind or not. This was all their fault. The bloody school with its useless teachers, their ridiculous rules and brainless yellow and red card punishment system. I mean, who did they think they were? Premiership referees? And who was responsible for all this stupidity? The pathetic head sitting on the other side of this bloody desk. His eyes bulging, big shaggy dog ears and puffy cheeks were giving me the creeps. I know that's not very hardcore of me, but it's true. This guy looked like something of a cross between a French bulldog and a porcupine with a serious asthma condition. So I let my eyes drift around his office until they were settled on a corner of the dusty room above and to the left of the porky dog's head. There was a dirty cobweb up there, and I could just make out a small creature trying to extract itself from sticky strands. His or her, or maybe it was a trans creature. Situation looked pretty bleak. Its miniature legs were moving frantically, but this little guy, or girl, was going nowhere fast. It was trapped big time, and it was surely only a matter of minutes before a big, hairy, scary spider came back from wherever he'd been hanging out and found his dinner all ready and waiting for him. I winced inwardly at the thought. What the hell? At this stage, I didn't have anything to lose. Or so I thought. Time to troll. Well, Mr. Porterfield, here's the thing. There's quite a big difference between hearing and listening. So yes, I was hearing you. I heard everything you say. No more skipping class. No more throwing stones over the fence onto the road during break. No more smoking on school property. And no more going off to play basketball in the park in the middle of the day. I paused for a minute, aware that I had uttered more words in one paragraph to the headmaster of Northwest Secondary School, better known as NWSS, than I had in my previous 4.5 years of internment here. I was expecting to be told off more, but it seemed as if Porky Dog was all puffed out. Maybe the asthma was starting to act up, because he just leaned back in his creaky black armchair, crossed his hands in an exaggerated manner over his fat stomach, and waited. With perfect hindsight, I would have seen that I was being given just enough rope to hang myself, but hindsight doesn't exist in the now. And anyway, in my defence, I'd been majorly distracted by the trapped creature and the image of him, her, it, being served up in a huge bowl of crunchy spider soup. So I ploughed ahead, my eyes still focused on the ensnared insect, oblivious to the fact that I was blindly proceeding to my own funeral, even quicker than the poor creature in the web. And even I heard you say that I may have gone too far this time. I get it, Mr. Porterfield, but I think it's important, as I mentioned earlier, to note the differences between hearing and listening. In this instance, hearing means I am having an audible experience of you, but listening means that I am actually absorbing and considering what you have been saying, and unfortunately in this instance, I have not been doing that. I paused again, quite pleased with myself and my highly banterous response. Then I made the mistake of looking, for the first time, directly at Porky Dog's fleshy pink face, and I didn't like what I saw. The unusual exasperated expression had been replaced by something altogether more disturbing, actually quite sinister. The head was smiling. That caught me off guard. I was confused. What was so funny? And then it hit me. Now I knew I had gone too far.
"Well, Mr. Evan Banksy, it seems as if you've got it all figured out, which is probably a good thing, because I haven't, and we are not sure what to do with you. So I'm going to give us here at the school some time to think about it, some time to work out how we may be able to support you further, or if we are able to support you any more. The rest of the week, to be precise. In the meantime, as of this moment, you are officially suspended until next Monday, and when, or should I say if, you return, you'll be placed on the possible exclusion list for the rest of the month.
Now it was his turn to pause, and to my great disappointment, the king of banter couldn't come up with anything to interrupt his flow.
An email informing your mother of the suspension will be sent to her first thing tomorrow morning, and she will be required to attend a reintegration session with you next Monday. At that time, if you do choose to return to NWSS, then there are going to need to be some serious changes. And not just in your behavior, the changes are going to need to be in you, Evan, inside you, because you're a smart kid, and sometimes, though not very often these days to be perfectly honest, you can be quite a likable young man, but it's getting harder and harder to see that in you.
He paused to catch his breath. I thought for a second he was going to reach into the desk for his inhaler, and I briefly wondered if we were done here, but the big boss was just getting started.
I know things aren't easy at home, and I know that you think you're wasting your time here, but you're not the only one who gets it, Evan. I get it too. I may look like some old overweight asthmatic guy whose main job is making the life of a Year 11 student as miserable as possible, but I've been doing this job for almost 20 years, so your troubles and your frustrations are not new to me. I've seen them all before, and I know what we can do to try to help, and what we cannot do. This part is up to you, and that's what I'd encourage you to think about over the next week. Now, just before you go, I've got something for you.
He reached across the desk and began leafing through a pile of papers. What could he possibly be looking for? A police report of my latest classroom indiscretions. An old unpaid parking ticket he was going to blame on me now also. 3 tickets to a Take That reunion gig. Surely not even Porky Dog could be that cruel.
Ah, here it is,
he announced, proudly holding up a crinkled A4 piece of paper.
There's a new external program which we've just introduced into the school, especially for those students who are, shall we say, struggling a bit. It's called, let me see here. Yes, it's called Resilience from the Inside Out. I don't know much about it, but Mr. Sedgman, head of pastoral care, says it's all about how you think, how you feel, those kinds of issues. So when we see you back here next week, I'm going to expect you to attend this program, because without it, and I don't mean to be cruel, even just stating the facts as I see them, you're not going to make it here at NWSS, or probably at any school for that matter. So it's high time we got you some outside help from people who know what they're talking about.
Porky Dog paused again and glanced at his watch.
As there is just under 2 hours left in the school day, I'm going to let you leave the premises of your own accord with immediate effect, and I highly encourage you to go straight home, rather than anywhere else where trouble might find you. Now, I've got a staff meeting starting in a minute, so off you go.
Just then, the way too loud beeping of the school bell reverberated across the room and into the corridor. I felt as if it was going off inside my head. As Porky Dog swiveled his creaky chair away from me, I gathered my scruffy school bag from between my feet and stood up. And as I turned away and headed out of the head's office doorway, my eyes caught a glimpse of the dirty, thin cobweb in the dusty corner. I quickly scanned it, but couldn't see the pathetic creature anywhere. Had he, she, it escaped, or was that a big whiff of chunky insect soup being cooked that I couldn't smell? Approaching the rusting black school gate, I caught sight of the big round clock facing inward at the top of the school's perimeter wall. That clock ruled my life. Monday to Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. Though it was just a circle with 2 pointing hands inside, no more than 18 inches in diameter, that clock always felt to me like it belonged in a medium security prison. I often imagined myself looking up at it from my bunk in Wormwood Scrubs jail, knowing that if I could make it to noon, I would receive my statutory daily rations at 2:15 p.m. I would be permitted my 15 minutes of state-sponsored exercise at 4 p.m. I would be freed on day release until the next morning at least. Me and a couple of mates in the school football team had even given that ugly clock a name a couple of years back. Big Alcatraz Ben. Now it read 2:19 p.m. Strange, because I was walking out of the premises on my own during prison time. I should have felt free, liberated, a new man. But I didn't. And I wasn't.
Hey, where are you going?
I heard a familiar voice call out behind me. I swiveled round to catch sight of my girl friend. Please note, 2 words separated by a space means a girl who is actually a friend. 1 word means exactly what you think it does. Just as she was about to head down the main corridor. "Hi, Tals!" I shouted above the clamour of scores of students rushing all over the place like a colony of ants. "Been suspended and got to attend some stupid resilience program when I'm back. Anyway, gotta hustle off school property now and not come back for the rest of the week." Tals turned to the girl next to her, whispered something in her ear, and came running back towards the school gate, a look of worry spreading across her face quicker than tickets sell out for an M&M gig.
"Does this have anything to do with what went down on the basketball court in the park last night?"
she asked, fixing her dark green eyes on mine and poking a loose braid of black hair away from her face. "What are you talking about?" I replied, playing dumb. But I knew exactly what she was talking about. I was meant to meet the boys at the court for a late night game of ball, but had been caught up with dealing with Mum and all, again. Rushing to the court, I heard a whole lot of shouting and saw everyone running all over the place, so I freaked out and hid in the underpass on the other side of the fence, just before the coppers arrived and started rounding everyone up, including all my boys.
"What? You didn't hear?"
asked Tals, a look of relief passing over her face as she uttered the words. "Hear what?"
"I literally just found out myself at the end of lunch break. Was looking everywhere to make sure everything was cool with you. Anyway, it's concerning your gang, your boys, whatever you call them."
"What about them?" I asked, sticking wholeheartedly to the playing dumb thing.
"Seems like they got caught up in some kind of major fight late last night with that lot from the other side of the estate. I heard the police were all over the place, so I'm really happy to see you now, Ev. I'm just so glad you didn't get caught up in all that."
I hated lying to Tals, I really did, but there was no choice here. Tals would have gone mental if she knew I was anywhere near the park last night when the fight went down. She'd had her issues with the gang before, and she made her views clear to me, so there was no way I was going to tell her, even her, what I had seen last night by the basketball court. "I hadn't got the foggiest what you're talking about, Tals." A shocked expression took up residence on my face. "I ain't heard nothing about a fight or police. Mum was having one of her downers last night, so I stayed home to keep an eye on her and make sure she didn't pop out for a refill at the off-licence. And this morning it was full on sorting her out, getting her ready for work and everything. Then I rushed to get over to this prison on time, 'cause I knew I was on last warnings. Didn't do me any good in the end though, 'cause now I'm suspended and done for."
"Don't joke about this being a prison, Ev, 'cause those friends of yours might be in real jail right now."
"You're right, girl. That's real bad news for the boys. Man, this is all so screwed up."
"Yet it is."
Tals was quiet for a moment as she fixed a gaze on me from a dizzy height. The fact that she was a good 3 inches taller than me didn't help none. I know this is not how you're meant to use the word literally, but I could feel her eyes boring into my head. Literally.
"So, suspended. Seriously, how did it get to that?"
"Basically, Porky Dog told me I'd gone too far this time. Seems like taking Friday afternoon off to play basketball with the lads bombed. So he told me I'd done for the rest of the week, and when I get back, I'm going to be on the exclusion list for another month." I paused, trying my best to find a way of shifting the dynamic of this conversation. Moving from a shocked expression to a tough guy look was a start. "Anyhow, besides missing football training tomorrow, I really don't care. I just got to make sure Mum doesn't find out about all this. It may just push her over the edge." A pang of guilt ripped through me. Mum was having enough problems lately. All the more reason to make sure she got kept in the dark about me getting kicked out of school. I'd have to figure out what to do about the integration meeting, or whatever it was called, another time. Shrugging that worrying thought off, I got back on track with Tals. "Porky Dog is just a half-wit, and so is everyone else around here. The place is a waste of space. Know what I mean?" Now I gave her my most charming, couldn't give a stuffed smile, the one I'd perfected for hours in front of the bathroom mirror, but I figured out she didn't need it anyhow. Attilia Mills, Tals to me, had been on my side for the last 10 years, ever since her parents had come from Jamaica to live in our little island on this side of the pond. We were neighbours in the same apartment block just up the street, and in buildings with walls that thin, you got to know each other's lives better than you probably should. In Tal's case, that was cool. She was a good 2 years older than me, over halfway through upper sixth, but the age, height and skin colour difference never meant nothing to our relationship. She was, however, corny it sounds, like something of a big sister to me, especially when things gotten a bit rough with that drug addict boyfriend of Mum's a few years back. I was only 9 then, and she'd just turned 11, but she was always there looking out for me. And when you're 9 years old and feeling pretty alone in the world, that counts for a lot. We'd been real tight ever since. But recently, Tals had been acting a bit strange, almost as if the stuff that had always bothered her, her parents' constant fighting, her weight. She was a size 8, so I really didn't get that. The stress of getting through A-levels didn't seem to get to her much anymore. Since I had been confused by this change, remember, I know this girl. I had casually asked her one day what the story was. "Hey Tals, why are you acting so chilled lately? You've got a major English exam in a couple of days, and you don't seem stressed out at all. That's not like you. What are you going to do? What's going on with you?"
"Yeah, I know," she had replied with a weird kind of look. "It's kind of cool how stress-free I'm feeling. This book I've been reading has really helped. It's all about how all the stuff from outside world can't be responsible for how you feel. Not other people, not other things, not even English A-level. I'm telling you, Ev, this is really good stuff. You need to check it out."
"Go easy, girl. You know I'm not into that kind of stuff. And when's the last time I read anything besides the football results? But happy to hear it's helping you with the stress levels. Just don't go all weird on me. Kay." That conversation was a few days ago, but I thought the new towels was going to roll over fast. I was about to get a rude awakening. She was taking no prisoners this afternoon, even less so than Porky Dog himself.
"You know what? I don't know what you mean, Evan," said my friend, shaking her head in a way that told me she really wasn't interested in my "they can go stuff themselves" attitude. "This school's got its problems, I get that. I should know. I've been here for almost 6 years already. But Porterfield is no half-wit. He's just not a cool guy, and you can't blame him for pulling the plug. That's all on you. How many times can you just skive up and think he's going to let it go?"
I started to open my mouth, another banterous response on the tip of my tongue, but something made me stop. As much as I didn't want to admit it, and for sure wouldn't in public, not even to Attilia Mills, it was not entirely out of the question that she may have a point. I guess, all things considered, I hadn't exactly given Porky Dog that many options.
"And listen, Ev, one other thing,"
Tals added, just when I thought we were done here.
"You really need to think about hanging out with these boys. They're big trouble. Last night sure proves that. And I really wish you'd keep your distance from them, because that kind of trouble gets worse, not better. Know what I mean?"
I didn't say anything in response. Tals had touched a nerve, and she knew it. My hanging around with these boys from the estate, Jams, Mo, Jez and Devon, all mates a couple of years older than me who were long done with school, had been the source of the only proper argument I had ever remembered Tals and I having just a week or so back, and it all ended with me defending my boys, with Tals having none of it. In other words, it hadn't ended well.
"I gotta run or I'll be late for English, Ev. Let's speak more about this later. But you should read this book I've been telling you about. It's really helping me, especially since my nan died, and it'll help you too, I'm telling you."
"Ah, come on, Tals," I moaned. "You know I don't do books."
"Just read it. It's short and it's simple. Even a knucklehead like you can manage it. Anyhow, what else are you going to be doing for the next 7 days while you're being kicked out of school? Here, take it."
And with that, just the only person in the world besides Mum, who I really trusted, reached into her school bag, pulled the book out and thrust it in my hand. Without saying another word, she turned on her heel and rushed off to English. I looked down at the title and couldn't suppress a groan. What if you already have everything you need inside you? Man, this girl was going all weird on me.